December 31st, 1967. Minus 13 degrees. 16 seconds left. The Packers, once the worst team in the NFL, stood frozen at the goal line. Few believed a 17th round draft pick from Montgomery, Alabama, could become the master of this moment, let alone the architect of a dynasty. But how good was Bart Starr actually? Beyond the 5 championships and legends of leadership, what set him apart from every quarterback before and after? The answer begins long before the Ice Bowl, in a crucible of family tragedy, ruthless discipline, and historic doubt, revealing what it really took to turn a forgotten pick into football's greatest winner. Montgomery, Alabama, 1934. In a modest home on the edge of Maxwell Air Force Base, Bart Starr learned early that perfection wasn't optional. It was the only way to survive. His father, Vince Starr, ran the household with the same iron discipline he brought to the Army Air Corps. Ben's voice didn't rise. It barked. To Bart, he was more than a parent. He was the master sergeant. Every bed had to be made tight enough to bounce a quarter. Every mistake, no matter how small, was met with a lesson. He intimidated me. He was my master sergeant, Bart would later admit. The words carrying more weight than any stat line or trophy. But discipline wasn't the only force shaping him. When Bart was just 11, tragedy struck. His younger brother Hilton stepped on a dog's bone in the yard. Tetanus set in quickly. The fever climbed, and within days, Hilton was gone. No warning, no time for goodbyes. The loss hollowed the family. Bart watched his father, a man trained never to show weakness, break down in the hallway. The grief didn't bring them closer. If anything, it turned Ben even more inward, and Bart learned to carry pain in silence, to look for comfort in routine and order. The household ran on military time. Bart woke before dawn, completed chores, and braced for inspection. Praise was rare, but the absence of correction meant you'd done something right. Ben Starr believed that toughness was built, not inherited. Bart learned to keep his head down, to absorb criticism, to chase flawlessness, because anything less would never be enough. In those years, football was just a neighborhood game. The real contest played out in the Starr living room, where the stakes were measured in approval, and the only scoreboard was his father's face. Every setback, every disappointment, every demand for more. These became the raw material for a drive that would outlast the pain. Years later, teammates and coaches would marvel at Bart's calm under pressure, his refusal to crack when everything was on the line. But the roots of that steel were planted here, in a house shadowed by loss and ruled by discipline. Before the championships, before the cheers, there was just a boy learning to survive in the crucible of family. At Sidney Lanier High, Bart Starr was the steady hand behind an 18-1-1 record. He wasn't flashy. He didn't run wild or throw bombs on every play. But when the game was close, Starr's team always seemed to have the ball last, and they almost always won. College scouts took notice. Alabama called, and Starr answered, leading the Crimson Tide to a Southeastern Conference title as a sophomore. The future looked set, but then came the injury. No one can say for sure how it happened. A punting drill gone wrong maybe, or a hit in practice. All anyone knows is that Starr's back was never the same. His junior year was a struggle. By his senior season, he barely saw the field. Alabama went 0-10. The same quarterback who'd once been the hope of Montgomery finished his college career on the bench, his name fading from draft boards. In the world of 1950s football, an injury like that usually meant the end. National Football League scouts moved on. Starr's stats vanished. His phone stayed silent. But sometimes, football isn't about the obvious stars. Sometimes, it's about the ones who keep showing up. Starr's old high school coach called in a favor. That's how, in 1956, Bart Starr became the 200th pick of the NFL draft. 17th round, a slot reserved for footnotes and afterthoughts. The Green Bay Packers sent him a contract for $6,500. It wasn't enough for an apartment, so Bart and Cherry moved in with her parents. The Packers, meanwhile, were a mess. 8 wins, 27 losses, and a tie over 3 years. Lambeau Field's stands were half empty. In Green Bay, the only thing colder than the winters was the team's record. No one expected much from the rookie with the aching back. He arrived in camp quiet, polite, carrying more doubt than luggage. Reporters barely mentioned his name. The other quarterbacks had stronger arms, bigger reputations, and the confidence that comes from being wanted. Starr just kept his head down and learned. He'd been counted out before. He knew the feeling of being overlooked, of being the last man in the room. But he also knew how to survive it. The journey from high school hero to college ghost to NFL longshot had left scars. But it had also left something else. A stubbornness, a refusal to quit, a belief that even the smallest chance was still a chance. In a league built on bravado, Bart Starr's quiet persistence was about to get its first real test. February 1959. Vince Lombardi walked into the Green Bay locker room and everything changed. He laid down the law in a single sentence. Gentlemen, we're going to relentlessly chase perfection. For Bart Starr, who had spent years learning to keep his head down and his mouth shut, this was a different kind of authority. Louder, sharper, but somehow familiar. Lombardi saw something in Starr. He called it intelligence, poise, and arm talent. But he also saw what was missing: confidence. The Packers had been a punchline for years, and Starr's record, 3 wins, 15 losses, 1 tie, wasn't exactly a resume builder. Lombardi wasn't shy about pointing that out, sometimes in front of the whole team. Public criticism was his tool of choice. Starr felt every word. It didn't take long for the tension to break. Early in that first season, Starr found himself the target of another sideline tirade. This time, he didn't just take it. After practice, he stopped Lombardi in the hallway. No crowd, no audience. Starr's voice was steady. "Coach, you can chew me out anytime you want, but if you keep doing it in front of the guys, it's going to be hard for me to lead them." Lombardi didn't blink. He sized up his quiet quarterback, then nodded. That was it. From that day forward, criticism happened behind closed doors. In public, Lombardi backed his quarterback. Every snap, every mistake, every comeback. Starr, for his part, responded with the kind of preparation that became legend. Film study until 2 in the morning. Handwritten notes on every opponent. He turned Lombardi's relentless chase for perfection into his own silent campaign for respect. The rest of the team noticed. Starr wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but after that conversation, he became the one everyone looked to when the game was on the line. Lombardi's trust was like a shield. Starr could make a mistake, take a hit, or call an audible, knowing his coach had his back. That partnership, built on a single moment of honesty, would become the backbone of the greatest dynasty the NFL had ever seen. It wasn't about stats or highlight reels. It was about 2 men, both shaped by discipline and disappointment, finding common ground in the pursuit of something better. In Green Bay, respect wasn't given. It was forged. One conversation, one handshake, one hard-earned chance at a time. Bart Starr's reputation, for years, came with an asterisk. Smart, yes. Steady, sure. But soft? That was the label. The numbers tell a different story. From 1959 through 1967, Starr led the Packers to a 98-30-4 record. 4 times, he finished the regular season with the NFL's best passer rating. In an era when quarterbacks threw as many interceptions as touchdowns, Starr went 294 straight passes without a single pick. That's 8 full games. No mistakes, no cheap giveaways, just ruthless efficiency. The league average for interception rate hovered around 7%. Starr cut that in half, sometimes lower. In 1966, he threw just 3 interceptions all season. Johnny Unitas, the gold standard of the era, averaged 7.8 yards per attempt. Starr? 7.85. For every argument about Unitas' arm or Tittle's flash, the numbers quietly tip the scales toward Green Bay's number 15. But numbers alone never convinced the old guard. The Bears especially saw Starr as a target. Chicago's defense in the early 60s was a gauntlet. Bill George at middle linebacker, Doug Atkins on the edge, both future Hall of Famers who played with malice. September 17, 1961, first game of the season, Packers versus Bears at Green Bay. Second quarter, Packers up 7-0. Starr drops back to pass. George and Atkins converge, a wall of blue and orange. Starr takes the hit. Hard, right under the chin. Blood everywhere. He leaves the field, gets stitched up, and comes back. No drama, no grandstanding. He just returns to the huddle and keeps calling plays. Packers win, 21-17. Chicago's press, usually quick with the barbs, called it the day Starr earned their respect. Teammates never questioned his toughness again. Jerry Kramer would later say, "That was the day we knew Bart wasn't just smart. He was made of steel." The myth of the caretaker quarterback doesn't hold up under the spotlight. Starr called his own plays, dissected defenses late into the night, and delivered under pressure. Playoff passer rating, 104.8, still one of the highest ever. In the postseason, he was 9-1, winning 5 championships in 7 years. When the Packers needed a drive, Starr delivered. When the weather turned ugly, when the hits got personal, he stayed upright. The 294 pass streak wasn't just about avoiding mistakes. It was about trust. Lombardi's trust in his quarterback, teammates' trust in their leader, and Starr's trust in his own preparation. Every number, every record, every bloody chin, stitched up on the sideline, proof that Bart Starr was nobody's passenger. He was the driver. And the road to every championship ran straight through him. Championships in the Lombardi era didn't come quietly. They arrived with exclamation points. Take 1961, Yankee Stadium, NFL title on the line, Giants stacked with talent. Starr didn't just win, he orchestrated a 37-0 shutout, the kind of statement that echoes for decades. New York's defense, loaded with future Hall of Famers, never found an answer. Starr threw for 164 yards and 3 touchdowns, dissecting the Giants with surgical precision. The critics who called him a caretaker had nothing left to say. That day, Starr was the surgeon, and the Giants were just another patient. Fast forward to 1965. Starr played most of the season with rib cartilage torn loose, pain that made every breath a gamble. He missed the opening series of the NFL championship against Cleveland. But when the Packers needed a spark, he returned, still grimacing, and on his first throw back, hit Carroll Dale for a 47-yard touchdown. That wasn't a safe pass. That was a quarterback betting everything on his own arm. Green Bay took the lead and never looked back. Toughness wasn't just a tagline. It was a touchdown drive with cracked ribs and a championship at stake. Then came 1966, the Cowboys, and what many still call Starr's masterpiece, NFL, Championship Cotton Bowl. The winner goes to the first Super Bowl. Starr completed 19 of 28 passes for 304 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. His passer rating, 143.5, still among the highest ever in a title game. Every drive seemed to end in the end zone. Every third down was a conversion. Cowboys coach Tom Landry called it the best quarterbacking performance he'd ever witnessed. The Packers clinched a Super Bowl berth, and Starr left the field with the MVP. Now, the world was watching. Super Bowl I, 16 completions on 23 attempts, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Super Bowl II, 200 to 2 yards, a 62-yard bomb to Boyd Dowler, and another MVP trophy. The NFL's reputation was on the line against the upstart AFL, and Starr's calm turned anxiety into dominance. Before the Ice Bowl, before the legend was set in stone, these were the games that made Bart Starr the standard for clutch. Every championship started with him, under center, calling his own plays, and refusing to let the moment get bigger than the quarterback. Minus 13 degrees, 16 seconds left. Third down, 1 yard to go. The Packers huddled on the frozen tundra, breath hanging in the air, hope hanging by a thread. Bart Starr called timeout and jogged to the sideline, ice crunching under his cleats. Vince Lombardi met him halfway. Starr didn't ask for a play. He had one. "Coach, the backs are slipping. I can sneak it." Lombardi's answer was pure Lombardi. "Then do it, and let's get the hell out of here." Back at the line, Jerry Kramer and Ken Bowman dug their hands into the permafrost, searching for a foothold. Starr barked the count, lunged forward, and followed Kramer's block through a sliver of daylight. The Cowboys never saw him until he was already across the goal line. Touchdown. The Packers had their 3rd straight NFL title, and Starr had a moment that would echo for generations. After the chaos, after the trophy, Starr found his father in the locker room. Ben Starr, the master sergeant, the man who never gave easy praise, put a hand on his son's shoulder and said only 5 words: "Now I know you're tough." That single line meant more than any championship ring. But the story didn't end with confetti. Starr took the Corvette he won as Super Bowl MVP and handed the keys to Rawhide Boys Ranch, a home for at-risk boys in Wisconsin. He and Cherry spent the next 54 years serving on the board, raising money, and showing up in person. The Corvette was just the start. For Starr, greatness wasn't measured in yards or trophies. It was what you did when nobody was watching. Modern analytics caught up to him decades later. Era-adjusted stats, win probability models, and playoff efficiency all point to the same answer. Bart Starr was the #1 quarterback of his era, and maybe the most likely to win championships in NFL history. The Ice Bowl sneak wasn't just a play. It was proof of nerve, of intelligence, of a leader who made everyone around him better. On that frozen field, and in the years that followed, Starr showed what it really means to win. Bart Starr entered the NFL as the 200th pick, yet finished his career with 5 NFL championships, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and a 9-1 playoff record under Vince Lombardi. The evidence shows he led the league in passer rating 4 times, posted a 104.8 postseason mark, and guided the Packers through the Ice Bowl's minus 13 degrees with a quarterback sneak that remains legendary. While some details about his college injury and internal team decisions remain unclear due to limited records, the available facts confirm that Starr's efficiency and leadership set him apart in his era. His 94, 57, and 6 record as a starter and decades of charitable work, including donating his Super Bowl MVP Corvette, are documented in team and league archives. Today, historians consistently rank him as the top quarterback of his generation for winning when it mattered most. Bart Starr's story, by every documented measure, is not just about overcoming odds. It's about redefining what it means to be a champion in the NFL.